I've got this memory, right? It's about 10 years ago. But it's one of those moments that just got cemented in my brain like a fly trapped in amber. It was one of the last times I ever let anyone try to make me feel small. And honestly, it all went down over a pair of sneakers, of all things, in the shoe section of a Dick's Sporting Goods. I was 12. Little awkward. All knees and elbows, and my best friend Kaylee and I were at Crabtree Valley Mall in Raleigh, just chillin', waiting for my mom to pick us up after she finished her business near Camp Leoyne. We were looking at these new Nikes, the ones with the iridescent swoosh, and I wanted them badly. Kaylee was talking about some drama in homeroom. I was just trying to balance this stack of shoeboxes, and that's when I said the thing. The thing that changed the whole afternoon, I just casually explained. Oh, Mom can't pick us up until later because she had a debriefing. You know how it is. Her schedule's always insane since she got back from that rotation she's with the Marine Raiders. So it's always complicated, Kaylee. Bless her heart, she blinked, her eyes wide. She'd known my mom Sierra for years, but she still got amazed. Your mom is actually like special ops. It's like the guys you see in movies. And I just shrugged, trying to sound cool, even though inside I was buzzing with pride. Yeah, she's Major Sierra Evans. It's no big deal. It should have been just another kid brag like claiming your dad works at Nintendo. But then this sound cut through the air. Right? It wasn't a soft chuckle. It was this sharp, derisive laugh, the kind that feels specifically designed to prick your balloon and make you deflate. Standing just a few feet away, pretending to look at a rack of expensive tactical shirts, was this guy. He was maybe mid-40s, wearing a polo shirt that was maybe a size too tight, and had a cheap mall security badge clipped to his belt even though he was off duty. Looked like he was trying way too hard to project authority. This was Doug Reynolds, and he was the mall security manager, a real legend in his own mind. He tossed his shirt back onto the rack, the look on his face just dripping with condescension. Marine Raiders. Huh. Oh, that's rich, kid. Come on, he took a step closer, and my stomach dropped. I tried to look away, but he was addressing me now, not his rack of shirts. I've been in law enforcement, and I mean real law enforcement, for over 20 years, and I've seen enough bases to know. Trust me, kid, there is absolutely no chance your mom is running around with Marsoc. Especially, and he paused here, letting his eyes rake over me. Over my brown skin, over my 12-year-old self, especially not someone who, ... looks like you. Implication hit me like a physical punch. It wasn't just that he didn't believe me. It was the whole package, the race, the gender, the idea that my mom, my family, couldn't possibly be part of that elite world. My face went instantly hot, and I could feel the flush crawling up my neck, burning into my ears. Kaylee nudged me, whispering, "Just ignore him, Chloe. He's just some guy." But you couldn't ignore it. The laughter was too loud, the judgment too public. Shoppers nearby had stopped, pretending to look at yoga mats and basketballs, but they were all listening. We were on stage, and this jerk had just stolen the microphone. Reynolds chuckled again, low and dismissive, adjusting the collar of his shirt like he was adjusting a uniform he didn't quite earn. Look, I get it. Kids invent things. Used to tell people his dad was Batman. Sweet, it's cute, it's a fantasy, but it's not real. Fantasy. The words stuck in my throat like a shard of glass. My mom wasn't a fantasy. She was the one who was gone for months at a time, leaving me handwritten letters because they couldn't use phones where she was. She was the one who moved with that quiet, coiled strength, who had medals displayed that looked like miniature works of art. But standing there, under those harsh fluorescent lights, I had no proof. And he knew it. That smug, triumphant grin told me he thought he had won the whole conversation. I managed to shove the shoebox back onto the shelf, the cardboard scraping loudly just so I could do something. Kaylee was shaking her head nervously. I finally forced out 2 words, barely a whisper. "It's true." That defiance only drew more laughter from him. He threw his hands up, appealing to the small, silent audience that had formed. See? That's the classic kid defense. Look, sweetheart, there's nothing wrong with wanting a hero. But inventing fairy tales about spec opposites just going to get you laughed at? He tapped his cheap security badge. Tell you what, but your mom is really what you say. Maybe she'll Should stop by the mall security office sometime. Could really use a laugh. My chest felt tight, constricted. I could only manage a shaky, cracked sentence. You don't know anything about her. He just waved a hand, settling the matter. Sure, kid, whatever you say. The humiliation was a physical weight, pressing me into the linoleum floor. I wanted to run, to disappear, to rewind 10 minutes and just say, my mom's busy. But the idea that everyone was now believing his version, this petty man's version, over my truth, over my mother's honor, ... It made my whole body burn. I lowered, my eyes fighting back the tears that were blurring the rows of sneakers. What could I do? I was just a kid. Reynolds leaned against the display, enjoying the show he had created. You know, people don't realize the kind of commitment it takes to make it into MARSOC. Years of grueling selection, combat deployments, the best of the best. It's not exactly the kind of job you hear about at the PTA meeting. He laughed again, shaking his head. And you expect me to believe your mom is one of them? The knot in my chest twisted tighter. I knew he was targeting me because of his own insecurities. Maybe he was a military washout. Maybe his security job felt meaningless compared to real service, but that didn't stop the pain. I don't care if you believe me, I forced out, my voice slightly steadier. My mom doesn't need your approval. But Reynolds had to have the last word. He took a step closer, lowering his voice just enough to make it feel like a private insult, yet still loud enough for the crowd. Listen, sweetheart, you run around telling stories like this, people are going to laugh. Not everyone's going. To be nice about it, you're better off sticking to the truth. Your mom works hard. She takes care of you. That's enough. No need to pretend she's some kind of war hero. Pretend. The word echoed in my head, as if the medals in the shadow box on our wall were bought at a souvenir shop, as if the silent, terrifying nights I worried about her were imaginary. I bit the inside of my cheek until it stung. I lifted my head, finding a new resolve, even if my hands were still slick with sweat. You'll see, I repeated, firmer this time. Reynolds smiled, a cold, patronizing smile. All right, I'm waiting. Maybe she'll rappel down from the skylight. Huh. The silence that followed his last joke was thick, heavy, and endless. Every second stretched. The crowd waited. I stood there, praying, fighting back the urge to blink. I wouldn't give him the satisfaction of seeing me cry, and then faintly I heard it, a sound that didn't belong in the mall, not the shuffling of shoes or the pop music over the speakers. It was the rhythmic, measured sound of well-maintained boots hitting the tile floor, steady and certain. Thump, thump, thump. Major Sierra Evans wasn't a woman who went unnoticed. She strode through the entrance from the food court, and the air shifted. Her uniform was perfect, pressed and sharp. The MARSOC patches on her sleeve catching the overhead light, her officer's cap tucked neatly under one arm. She had that presence, that quiet authority that makes ordinary. People instinctively step aside. Relief hit me so fast it almost made me dizzy. But it was quickly replaced by new terror. She was about to see everything. Asterisk her gaze swept the store, and landed instantly on the small crowd. On me. My face stained red, and on Doug Reynolds. Leaning back with that smug, self-satisfied look, her jaw set. She crossed the final aisle, her boots silent and purposeful on the carpeted shoe section. Reynolds spotted her. Initially, his smile remained, just another parent arriving. But as Sierra closed the distance, her rank and her patches the undeniable. Markers of serious, active service were impossible to ignore. His smirk crumbled into a nervous, confused grimace. Mom? The word escaped me, loud and cracked with relief, silencing the last of the whispers. Sierra stopped right next to me, her hand resting lightly on my shoulder. The tension in my body melted a fraction under her touch. She didn't look at Reynolds. Right away, she looked at me, giving me a moment of silent comfort. Then she turned her attention to the man. Reynolds straightened up, forcing a weak, polite smile that didn't reach his eyes. Evening, ma'am. Just clearing up a misunderstanding with your daughter. Sierra's eyes flicked over his cheap security badge, then back to his face. Kind of misunderstanding requires you to laugh at a 12-year-old and public officer, Reeves. She used the generic title deliberately, stripping him of any claimed seniority. My voice came out in a rush, desperate and shaky. He said, I made it up that you couldn't be who you are, that it was a fairy tale. Sierra didn't raise her voice, but it cut clean through the silence. You mocked my daughter in front of strangers and called her a liar. Reynolds flushed, shifting his weight. Hold on, Sergeant Major, I just said, kids have big imaginations. I was having a little fun. Fun, Sierra repeated, the word sounding like an accusation. Tell me, officer. She paused for effect, calling him officer again. What exactly made it so funny? The title? Or that she used it to describe me? He hesitated, licking his lips. It was ... unusual. That's all. Sierra tilted her head, her gaze piercing. Unusual doesn't mean impossible. It means you haven't seen it, so maybe the problem is less about me being here and more about you never imagining I could be. That statement, delivered with such calm authority, silenced every single person in the vicinity. I felt a surge of pure, powerful pride wash away the shame. Reynolds' eyes darted nervously to the onlookers, realizing he was no longer talking just to us. He was performing for an audience that had now shifted allegiance. I never said anything. About race? I never said anything about women. You're putting words in my mouth. You didn't have to say it, officer, Sierra stated calmly. Your laughter said it for you. She glanced down at me, her hand squeezing my shoulder briefly, then turned back to him, her voice dropping, forcing him to lean in slightly to hear her, making him look small. Intent doesn't erase impact. I've served my country for 22 years. I've led Marines through terrain you'll never see. I wear this uniform because I earned every thread of it. And yet the hardest battle I fight is right here, convincing people like you that my existence is not a joke. The words hit him like a physical blow. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. His arguments had evaporated. Sierra looked away. From him addressing the store, my daughter shouldn't have to defend my career to strangers. She shouldn't have to stand here in tears because a man couldn't imagine her words being real. Quiet, tentative clap broke the silence. A woman near the clearance basket started it and then stopped, but the seed had been planted. Reynolds swallowed. Hard, his face pale. All right, point taken. I'll admit I came across wrong. I'm sorry if I embarrassed your kid. The apology was hollow, thrown out like a piece of garbage. Sierra's eyes narrowed. No, that was you trying to save face. Apology is about the person you harmed. You look at her, the weight of the moment pressed down on him. He glanced at me and I stared back, tears still welling, but my chin lifted. Finally, he mumbled, Sorry, kid. Try again, Sierra ordered, her voice like steel. He took a breath.
Ow.
His shoulders slumping under the collective gaze of the shoppers. Chloe, he said, louder, clearer, I am sorry. I shouldn't have laughed at you. I was wrong to say what I said. You told the truth, and I was wrong not to believe you. My chest swelled, a triumphant wave pushing out the last vestiges of shame. El held his gaze for a second longer, then looked at my mother. She gave me the slightest reassuring nod. Sierra turned back to the crowd. This isn't just about one man. In one child, she said. This is about how easy it is to dismiss someone when their story doesn't match what you expect. How many times does that happen? How many times do kids grow up thinking their voices don't matter because someone with power decided to laugh instead of listen? The wave of shame was now fully past. I felt relief, pride, and vindication. Reynolds mumbled again. I already said I was sorry. Then live like it, Sierra finished, her voice final. Next time you meet a child with pride in their voice, don't strip it away. Let them keep it. Because once you take that from a kid, it's not easily given back. Then it happened. A young man by the checkout started clapping. Soon scattered applause, respectful, steady, filled the store. Reynolds, beaten and utterly humiliated, gave a curt nod and retreated quickly toward the exit. He was no longer the center of attention. He was the man who had been schooled. Sierra bent down slightly, her face level with mine. No, Maya, thank you. Thank you for telling the truth when it wasn't easy. That's braver than anything I've ever done in uniform. When we finally walked out of that store, the sun felt warmer, The air tasted cleaner. People looked at us differently. Now, not with pity or curiosity, but with respect. I still carried the memory of Reynolds's smirk, but it wasn't a weight anymore. It was a reminder of how quickly a person's assumptions can crumble when faced with undeniable truth. I realized that day that the best defense against prejudice isn't anger or even proof, it's just standing tall and speaking your truth. Even when your voice shakes, it cost Doug Reynolds nothing to be respectful, but his lack of respect nearly cost me my pride. And I promised my mom right then that I would never, ever be embarrassed about who she is or what she's accomplished. But here's the thing I still wonder about. How many of those onlookers, the ones who silently watched the whole thing go down, walked away thinking about their own silence? Is there applause and apology for their earlier inaction? What do you think? When you're in a public place and you see a powerful adult, maybe a former police officer, maybe a manager, maybe just someone with a louder voice staring down at kids' truth, are you obligated to step in? And does the person's uniform, or lack thereof, change the weight of their words? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and let's talk about the silent battles we fight every day. And if this story resonated with you, hit that like button. And subscribe for more true stories about standing up for what's right.